people, and welcome to another ASK Music and Tuition video. I'm here with Frae Alora.
Hello.
She's going to help me do some demonstrating today on the female voice, and I'm going to help compare it with the male voice as we talk more on singing registers and helping define the gaps and terminology and all those bits and bobs. So we'll just get straight into it. So you might have been a singer for a while, or you might have had lessons or checked some stuff out online, and you might be wondering, why are you doing another singing registers video when there's already loads of stuff out there? And today I really want to clear up the terminology around particularly the male voice and the female voice. So by the power of video editing, here is a diagram showing singing registers. You've got your typical ones, chest and head voice. You've also got another one for guys, falsetto, so we'll get onto that in a minute. So at the bottom of the diagram, you might see that it says 3 to 4 octaves. Now, if you're not sure what an octave is, it's quite important for explaining this video.
There's lots of different ideas out there about what you can call the different parts of your range. For the sake of this video, we're going to refer to them as chest being the lower part of our range and head being the higher part of our range. And the reason we use those terms is because it's all about where you feel and experience the sound vibrating when you sing at different pitches. So, for example, I'm going to take a middle C. Ma. For me, that's in my chest voice, because when I sing it, ma, most of the resonance and vibrations I feel and experience here in my chest. So have a go at home. If we jump up an octave and hit the C above middle C, ma, you'll hear that the sound of that note has a really different quality to the note below. Ma, ma. And for me, up here, all the resonance is happening more in my nose, towards the front of my head, and that's why we refer to it as head voice.
So that's generally kind of the scope for a female voice in terms of chest voice and head voice registers. Now to kind of talk about the guy's voice. Now, just to make it really clear, guys have 3 separate registers. So the first one is the chest voice, which is this kind of really rounded sound and quite, it's got this kind of masculine quality to it, which is a bit more forward. George Ezra and Johnny Cash, they have that more kind of bassier tone sound to their voice. Hey, is probably about the lowest I can go. I can't even conjure that note, but we're going to be using E notes in different octaves to kind of help explain where all the different registers are, basically. So I would say the G above, so it'd be G2, hey, would be my, I could define that note a bit better, and then hey, that's down to E2. And like Frae Alora was just saying, if you put your hand on your chest, you can feel that vibration kind of going through your chest. Then the next octave up from that, so E3, hey, it's still quite low in a guy's voice a lot of the time. It still has a nice kind of resonant quality in your chest. And then the next octave up from that, so it's E4, so this is an E above middle C. Hey, hey. So there's a complete different change in sound, and what we call that male head voice. Now, head voice is not falsetto. Head voice is a continuation of that sound going from chest voice into head voice. So if you listen, hey, so you can hear the kind of low, deep end of the chest voice going into that higher voice and coming back down. It's not flicking into hey. So there, I was trying to do hey, hey. You can hear the crack going on. So that crack helps us indicate that actually now I'm going into what we call that kind of.
Need some headphones over here.
It's quite piercing. I'm putting a lot of volume into it because it's quite a hard note. So that is the next E above. So that's 4 octaves up from when we started. That's E5. That is a guy's falsetto voice. And as you can see on the diagram, that kind of links more closely to a girl's head voice. Now with chest and head voice, they kind of flow nicely into one voice. Chest voice starts here and then head voice kind of comes up here. So some people naturally speak up here kind of in their higher voice, and some people speak down here in their more chesty voice, essentially. So whereas those two kind of blend together, your falsetto, you have to switch out and kind of flick into another voice in order to get that the kind of Mickey Mouse voice, of that, oh, kind of that sort of thing. So yeah, guys, congratulations. We have 3 registers. We get a lot to play around with. It's very exciting. Sorry, Frae, you've only got 2 registers. But, you know, girls, you can go a lot higher. So you have that added benefit, basically. So now we're going to kind of demonstrate with exact pictures where on this diagram you can see them, they're both overlapping, particularly with the girl's chest voice and the guy's head voice. So if I sing, hey,
Hey.
so that is Frae's chest voice.
Hey.
And then hey is my head voice. So if we sing it at the same time, hey. So we are singing the exact same pitch at that point. So now we're going to demonstrate a guy's falsetto voice in comparison to a girl's head voice. So we're going to sing an octave up from that middle C that we just did. So this is going to be C5. So I'll sing falsetto first. So hey, and then can you? So that is Frae's head voice, and I'm doing my falsetto. So the exact same pitch. So if we sing together, hey. So again,
it's like we've got the same voice.
Exactly. So hopefully that's been really helpful in kind of knowing where to aim sound, and in terms of pitches, if you can kind of work along with it with a keyboard to understand your voices a little bit better. Another terminology that gets thrown around a lot is the kind of classical terminology. So video editing power, here we go. It's the same diagram, but as you can see, the words have changed. If you've ever been involved in a choir group before, you might have been put into different voice groups depending on where you feel most comfortable singing. So where I was kind of showing those notes at the beginning in chest voice, that's typically where a bass voice group would be starting. They'd be a lot stronger than I am.
So a female alto voice and a male tenor voice tend to overlap at similar pitches, as we kind of demonstrated a little bit earlier. My chest voice is kind of in the same register as Adam's head voice, and then as that female voice goes up, you get more into the sopranos range, which would classically be more of that head voice sound, as you hear with a lot of opera singers. So if you're an aspiring singer or a singer, you'll know that at different points in your voice, you tend to get this tension where maybe your voice seems to break. So for example, and sometimes you get to a point where you think you want to sing higher, but you have to change the quality of your voice in order to do so. That's what we call a break point, and our voices are actually made up of loads and loads and loads of different break points.
So your break points are basically where your registers, so for girls, your chest and your head voice are beginning to cross over. So for an example, let's go back to middle C and let's do E above middle C, so it's E4. So I'll sing it in my head voice, hey, and then I'll flick it into my falsetto, so hey, so you can hear the change in the colour and the flavour of that voice, kind of it thinning out more towards the end. The first one is more strong, the second one is more weak. And when our voice breaks, that means that it hasn't decided whether it's going to go to one register or the other. So I'm going to try and transition from my head voice straight into my falsetto, hey, hey.
So for girls, the similar thing can happen. For this example, I'm just going to use the note of G. Hey! Can you hear it kind of like, it's like the floor falls out. Hey!
So it's the exact same note, but you're choosing which register for your voice to go into, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, so for me, I spent a lot of time feeling quite frustrated that I couldn't sing higher in my chest voice. And that was before I realised that I could actually strengthen each of these different registers of my voice. So I began to focus more on my head voice and to strengthen that, and I realised I could actually, as I strengthened that part of my voice, it felt like I could suddenly sing higher because I just made that part of my voice stronger.
If you're struggling to kind of jump into one of those voices, for guys, if I'm trying to get them to do falsetto or kind of help girls with their head voice, trying to imitate like an owl noise, like a whoo, whoo, yeah. So you're not deliberately, like no owl would go whoo, like I've never heard an owl do that before. So you're deliberately going for that higher pitch, that whoo, whoo, whoo. And then once you've got the feel of that, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm into that voice, you want to hold that note for a little bit, so whoo. Yeah, so that's her head voice, and then that's my falsetto. With guys' falsetto, I would recommend that if you're quite competent with keyboard and quite competent with scales, I would just do like 3-note scales, like a 1, 2, 3. tuning scale just to kind of help strengthen your voice, because it's not a huge range, your falsetto. You can keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it, but actually just little steps to start with, especially if you're using it for the first time.
A really simple exercise that I use for just practicing my head voice particularly is downward slurs from my highest note possible. So it sounds really whiny, just embrace it for a minute. I just go like this, ee, 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 and just try and pitch that note right at the top of my range, ee, and I picture the sound sort of shooting forward through my nose, through my head, and that's what I use, yeah.
Nice.
If you've also ever struggled to find your chest voice, something that's a good way to just try and find it is to pretend you're doing a very low, evil laugh, like this. Or if you're a girl, ha 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 ha.
It's almost a bit Santa-y, kind of like ho ho ho. It's that kind of like, it just goes, you can feel the pulse in your chest kind of ho ho ho. It's kind of, it carries a bit better. Yeah.
The main thing is trying to find where that vibration is, and thinking about, am I feeling this more in my chest or more in my head? And that's how you know where you're sitting in your registers.
So again, today is just covering the basics of just helping to find the voices a bit more. If you want to know more about belting and kind of pushing range and all sorts of those different techniques that kind of come along with those registers, they're going to be in the next series of pushing range. So stay tuned for them. I think we've done quite a lot.
Yeah, I think
we're actually,
you've got a good.
Yeah, unless we have rolling credits, we're actually singing a song together.
Yeah!
Yeah, let's do that. So, what song do you want to sing?
Love singing songs.
You could do. Take me home. No. All right, let's do. Strangers, perfect pretenders. We're falling head over heels for something that ain't real. It'll never be us. Yeah, just you and I.